Mhm. Hello, Jake. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Well, I'm
Wait, let
fine.
me
Thanks
just
so
shut
much
this.
for joining this afternoon. No
Yeah,
problem.
you're welcome. My pleasure. Let me just shut this.
Okay.
Uh, my son's in a
Well,
hardcore band, and so some of the time he'll just start blasting hardcore. So,
I completely understand. First of all, what are your expectations for this upcoming tour in Brazil? Your first tour in Brazil?
um, yeah, I mean, I have no idea really what to expect. I mean, I'm excited that it's kind of, initially I didn't know how real the fan base was, or if that people would come or buy tickets or any of that. I didn't really know. You don't really know till you go. So we rolled the dice, and it seems like we've kind of increased size in venues and are playing larger, better clubs than initially we thought. But as far as what to expect, I mean, I've heard only amazing things about Brazil and the Brazilian fans and crowds. Um, I've been a lot of places in the world and there's certain places that they definitely have higher energy, higher crowd participation. Um, in the States, you could clap. It takes a lot more energy than if you're in Spain and you could clap one time and then the whole crowd is clapping along with you in time. It's like so my expectations are pretty high, but I'm one of the belief that have low expectations and see what happens, and so you're not disappointed. But yeah, I'm excited to come.
I assure you, you'll be surprised with the Brazilian audience. But from what you read on papers or maybe hear or see on social media, what are your thoughts on the Brazilian audience itself, the Brazilian fans? Look.
You back?
Yes, you're back.
Okay, I thought I was going to lose you for a while. Yeah, it froze. It froze up pretty much right for the beginning of your question. You can start over.
Uh, from what you read on the papers or see on social media, what are your thoughts on the Brazilian audience, the Brazilian fans?
No, I don't know. I mean, I know they're very active on social media, and that's really my only direct awareness of what it is. What I've heard is that they're insanely enthusiastic. I mean, it comes from fanatic, which is there's a fanaticism there that I hear is unrivaled.
Hmm.
That it's the most excitable, giving crowds that you'll ever play, and I've heard that many, many times out of everyone I've talked to that goes down to Brazil and plays. So yeah,
Have
I've only
you
only heard good things.
have you ever listened to any Brazilian artists or bands?
Um, I don't know. Actually, some of the time I don't know where people are from. I normally do if bands that I'm really into. I kind of go pretty hard in researching them and figure out where they're from and what it's all about, and who recorded this and who recorded that. But I don't know if I know any Brazilian bands. What's a Brazilian band that I might know?
Sepultura?
Oh, okay. I'm not a huge metalhead. I'm not a huge metalhead, but I'm aware of them. I'm sure I know some of it. When I was in high school, I used to listen to more metal and that kind of things, but it's been a while.
Okay. Is there anything particular about Brazilian culture that you're excited to know about, to meet? Maybe the steakhouses. Everyone mentions the steakhouses.
Yeah, I mean, I love a good steak. I heard somebody was telling me about a a different cut of meat that we don't necessarily call it here. I mean, we have our kind of standard cuts that we have here, and there's a different cut there. Uh, I forget what it was called. Maybe it was started with a C or something. I don't know. I'll have to revisit it with who I was talking to. But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, just to eat, feel the culture, explore some of the cities. Yeah, I mean, it's such a as far as the job goes, there's not really a better way to see and feel cultures, both by performing in front of different people from all over the world. Um, and it's not super heavy as far as this tour goes. So I think we're gonna have some time to be able to spend and get to see some things, get to, just go out to eat and kind of get into. I mean, that's my favorite. A lot of time I'm not a big sightseer. It's not like I need to go see the big statue or the whole thing. I'd rather go out, have food, have some drinks, hang with the people, like feel what that is, what that energy and light of cities and different cultures are. Um, and that's really how I like to kind of explore and travel and vacation and just travel. But yeah, I'm excited.
Regarding the shows, what can we expect in terms of set list?
I mean, probably play. I mean, now, we're a couple years out of this last cycle. We're not a band also that once we come out with a new album, we play, you know, every song off that album. I've always mixed it up. I've always been like, okay, these are songs that are important for us to play, that people kind of expect, and we play those. So it'll be a lot of everything, a lot of different things off the catalog throughout everything. So
Your
I mean, we do between 20 and 25 songs probably a night. Um, so you have to kind of pick and choose, but yeah, we'll do most of the ones that are kind of, we're not a radio band, so we don't have definitive hits really, but at the same time, it's apparent and it's obvious that some songs work better consistently and people attach their own hearts and minds to them.
Your most recent work is the album "E of the Dark Horse." You mentioned at the time of the album's release that it includes elements and influences from Tom Waits, Bruce Springsteen, pirate music, Yes to Rock. What inspired you to explore so many new sounds on this record?
That I really wanted to make like a headphones album. So one that you kind of just put on. I think it's a dying thing. Um, and have it sonically just take you on kind of this journey as well as the lyrical content to take you on kind of this arc. Um, so I wanted every song kind of to bleed into the next and explore all these different genres. And I knew with the producer we were working with, Jay Joyce, that he had the capacity to kind of go as far as we wanted to go, and he would help us both as a producer and both as a musician. So um, it's just something I've wanted to do. I think a lot of the time, some of the stuff has been stripped down, or um, I wanted to do something elevated sonically and have it take you on this trip and on this journey. Um, and yeah, I think we had the right guy to do it, and it was I never think about genre. Genre's not never a big thing, but with this one, I think it is. I don't even know if the genres are any different because I've always dipped my toe in different types of music, and hopefully it's kind of my own sound. But at the same time, this has kind of got a folk element. This has kind of got a country. This is kind of blues. This is kind of rock. This is more aggressive. But this one, I think, because of Jay, because of the producer, he was able to expand those ideas and those sounds to really make them more extreme as far as like, okay, this is this kind of song. Let's really, you know, let's really open it up with different instruments, with different recording techniques. Um, but yeah, it was a really cool learning experience with him.
But did Nashville also influence the sounds of the album in any way?
Um, I mean, I wrote the majority of that album when we were there. So a lot of the songs I had kind of ideas of what they were going to do. some of them had loose arrangements, I'll say at best. So a lot of it I was writing there. But as far as other than the city and the vibe and to be able to be in a destination without distractions of family and friends and people, and to have those 2 weeks where we were just isolated in a house with just the band alone, it made it almost another character or another member of the band, because it was um it allowed that space, that time, during that kind of manic period where it was like, you have to do this. I mean, I'm good at a deadline, but also the pressure of having to do things is almost a necessity to me, which is kind of, it's a panicked way to to record and live your life, but also somehow I seem to be able to deliver under those circumstances, where if you just go like, hey, let's, I won't be ready really, because I will procrastinate, or I'll do it, or I'll be like, oh, it'll come. It comes when it comes, and it just, it's not, I'm not even a part of it, but I am a part of it. But yeah, to be forced to do it. But Nashville, as far as like country music and I mean, Nashville has become such a kind of a more pop than LA. Country is such a pop machine now that it's almost unrecognizable to me as far as modern country music is yeah, I don't know. I can't do it. It doesn't I think I'm just getting older too, where everything just starts pissing me off. It doesn't like piss me off, like get me angry, but I'm just like, what are people even doing? Like, this is what people love now? This is what people like? That this I mean, I've always been a proponent, though, also of just like try to do something emotionally, hit somebody in the heart or make them think about something, instead of just like, there's so much bullshit and so much frivolous music and stuff that's just like, it seems so uh to serve kind of this lowest common denominator. um but I think you're just kind of dumbing people down, but I'm sure every fucking 50-year-old guy said that forever. Right, in the history of time, there was probably, every time they're like, oh, what are these kids up to? This is insane,
Well, I'm 34 and I
but
totally agree with you. So it's not
all
about the
right.
age, man, it's about the heart.
No,
So you kind of anticipated one of my next questions, which is what inspires you to write music?
man, this comes up almost all the time, and I don't entirely know. I wish I had a better answer, but because a lot of this stuff, it just comes from not an inspired place. It's not like I watch something news or I read something. It's very rare. I mean, I have read maybe there's one or two things that I've like read and then gone like, oh, that'd be a good story, and let me kind of like jump off that idea. But a lot of the time it's just kind of imagined. It's just like stuff that comes in out of nowhere.
Mhm.
What's inspiring is the idea of what just came in. That's always, it's almost like that initial thing, I feel like doesn't come from me or a space. I'm just kind of the antenna that's picking it up, and then, but then I recognize every once in a while, oh, that's the good idea. Or what could that be? Or what, and then that's inspiring. That little idea. It could be a sentence. It could be a melody. It could be. I'm working on a song right now that I was like, oh, and just something, a lyric will spill out, or an idea will spill out, and then you can craft it after, and that's what's really inspiring. And then a lot of time I don't even know what they're about until after the fact, like till like this last album, The Year of the Dark Horse, I was like, oh, I thought it was just this created story kind of that I made up, and granted, a lot of the things are things that I deal with, of like, mental health, seasonal depression kind of thing, with relationships, all this stuff. But I was thinking that they were all these kind of really twisted ideas, but often they were, after listening to it and after revisiting it, I was like, oh my God, that's totally me. That's me. That's me in this kind of scenario. That's, you know, there's a lot twisted truths, you know, but often the initial inspiration is inspired by what is just created. I mean, that's the most exciting time, you know, is that initial time where something comes in, you're like, whoa. And I record things on my phone all the time. Like the very first time I'll just pick up a guitar. And if there's some kind of idea comes out, I'll just record it. And then I'll go back and listen to it, or I'll go like, oh, that was a good idea. And then that's the springboard. And that's the most inspiring, exciting part of it.
Has this approach to songwriting evolved over your career? I mean, what would you say has changed since your earlier work?
I don't know entirely. I mean, I think I'm better at crafting songs to a point, but there's also there was something I've always tried to keep myself in the unknown, kind of in the not knowing completely what I'm doing, because just musically or kind of theory wise or that, because I've always liked the fact that I don't exactly know that, oh, you put an extra bar here, or you put there's a couple extra measures here in this spot, but it's because it's always been kind of vocally, melodically driven. Um, and I don't know how much I've truly evolved, because I think there's something in it's kind of terrifying, though, at the same time, that it just comes when it comes, you know, because sometimes it doesn't come for a long period of time. Um, but the purity and the rawness, I think, of that approach has served me well, and I've always kind of tried to stay true to that. I know that I've evolved in the way I use words and the in just life experience, to have more to talk about, to have more to draw from. Um, but as far as, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I almost feel like I'm devolving, which is could be cool. I'd love to kind of, because some of the time, like even songs now, I'm like, what even is that about? What is that lyric? What is that? Some of the time on some of my earlier songs where I just didn't like analyze them that much, and now I perfect things to a way, not perfect them, but make them. I've always wanted every word to count, but in the past, like there's a few songs I'm like, what the fuck? What was I even saying there? Like, what even? I didn't even know what that means. You know, like but there's something cool in that unknown of what it means, because it could mean this, it could mean this. There's more interpretation to it, which I think is kind of cool. But yeah, it would kind of. I mean, I guess that's the arc of life, though. You know, is you know, you start to master something, or you start to at least understand that concept, and then you start to fucking lose it. And so hopefully during this de-evolution of my faculties, no, I'm not that fucking old, but yeah, that I can get back, because I think there's some purity in the unknown.
Your music has been featured in various TV series. How does it feel for you to see your songs in audiovisual productions?
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, I don't care all that much. I know it's impacted my career in a huge way. All the Sons of Anarchy things, all the placements have been maybe the biggest driver in spreading my music on a global scale. I mean, we're not a radio band. We're not a band that it's been mostly TV shows, you know, and it's the popularity of those shows and the placements themselves um, that get people's ears on your music. Um, a lot of it is luck, and a lot of it is, you know, I try to write emotional songs, and I try to have some kind of impactful something to say, which is not always great, honestly, for TV licenses, but I've at least been lucky enough to have people that have used my stuff. But as far as the feeling I get from, like, I'm glad to be working. I'm glad to be, you know, I'm glad that people are interested enough or it does something enough that they think it's good enough for it to be in a TV show or in a movie or something like that. But as far as what it does to me personally, not much, other than the idea that I'm uh acutely aware that it's the biggest opportunity and the most the way that I've been able to go all of the way that probably the majority of Brazilians know who I am is due probably to Sons of Anarchy or The Punisher or mostly probably Sons of Anarchy. I mean, that was the biggest
Yeah.
thing. I mean, they used so many songs of mine, and then had me come in and start singing on songs. It was huge. It was huge for me.
Yeah, and that's why I gotta ask you, have you ever discovered an artist or band through a TV show or a movie?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I have. I don't know. I can't really draw a particular name out of it, but I do it all the time. If I hear something on a TV show, especially now that they have, it used to not be a Shazam situation. You have to wait, at least in a movie, like for the credits. I do that quite frequently. Um, you used to have to wait and then read the credits at the end, and hopefully you had a couple lyrics where you had the,
Yeah.
you guessed the title right or whatever it was, And now you have Shazam and Google, whatever the fuck, that you can
Mm.
just uh you can do it immediately. But yeah, no, I do that. I mean, I think it's definitely a big way of discovering music for a lot of people.
Did you actually watch Sons of Anarchy or Californication or This Is Us? Just to mention the three most famous series here in Brazil.
Um, oh, those are all in Brazil. They play all those in Brazil as well.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, okay. That's maybe I'll have to change the set list. um, I yeah, I did watch them, or at least I didn't watch Californication. Yeah, there was a funny story of me watching it and then it not, because the usage I think they had a couple songs, but the usage was like the guy was like he just gets out of a hot tub and he's got getting a blowjob in a hot tub or something. And I was watching it with my parents. My parents were visiting, and so I was watching it with my parents. And then right after the hot tub blowjob thing, it's the RZA from Wu-Tang Clan is like grabbing this girl's ass and it's playing one of my songs, and I was just like, oh. So it was kind of like it was kind of uncomfortable. But Sons of Anarchy, I watched kind of all the way through.
Mm.
Um, and a lot of the other shows I didn't watch. I don't know if I watched a few episodes of This Is Us, but I don't think I saw the one that I was in.
Okay. Well, what are your plans for the future? Is there a new album or collaboration in the works?
Yeah, I'm starting. I mean, now I got to start. I mean, our last album came out 2022. It was at the very end of the year, but in December. But yeah, it's time. I'm starting to write some stuff. I have some stuff that I have to do. I just got to get in kind of a sweet spot. I'm excited about releasing the live album. There's a lot of really cool stuff. I think it portrays these songs, or it gives these songs such a raw, visceral, passionate way, that comes out. The vinyl's coming out now, and then the streaming will be later, a little bit later, but it'll be available by the time we get to Brazil for sure. But yeah, just recording, doing the same thing. I don't know what direction I'm going to go. I'll just write a handful of songs, or at least get a handful of ideas, and then just get into the studio and see where they kind of take us, and not really kind of with the no agenda is after the last album, I think it's cool because I think I can do whatever really I want, and not that that was a huge success, but I know that a lot of people love that album and think it's great. So but it does allow me to really do whatever I want. If I wanted to go back and be like, okay, no, I'm going to do a whole album of acoustic songs, just me and guitar and a little accompaniment, or I'm going to do this with strings, or I'm going to do this a rock fucking opera. It's like sky's the limit. So we'll see.
And that's for my last question. How would you like to be remembered as a musician?
I don't know. I mean, I don't really care about being remembered all that much. I would just I'd like to be respected as a songwriter, and as someone who really did their own thing, followed their own rules, followed their own path. Um, I don't really do things. A lot of the things that I do aren't, you know, there's no agenda. I don't like bullshit. I like to be honest. I don't so much stuff and it keeps changing these days so rapidly as far as with social media about how people promote uh music, how people just like in your it's the same the chorus, the little same tiny little hook, and they'll just like you'll look on Instagram or something, and it'll be like every single day or twice a day, the same fucking little snippet of it until it's like it's like a blitzkrieg of or like, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't it's hard for me to kind of get on board with a lot of those things. And some of the time it's maybe hurt my career. Um because it's like I just want to do things the way I do. I tour the way I do. We don't go out forever, because it's like family's important, the strength of the band. I mean, also, but I've had the same drummer for 22 years. Now we have the same bass player. I've only had three bass players, but two really for 22 years. Two guys, two different guys. They've only had like three band members, after doing it for 20 plus years. And it's partially of how we tour. And now some of the other guys, the drummer has a kid now. So I want to see him have his child grow up. Family's important, It's like a lot of bands go out for, and they just attack, attack, attack. It's like when it's hot, you got to go when it's hot. And not doing that, it's a balance, I think, for me. And I've always recognized that balance. Um, and I don't know, I think it's important. But
Jake,
maybe a lot.
Jake, thank you so much for your time. Hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. And I hope you enjoy
Yeah.
Brazil as well.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. We'll see you later. Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.
All right. Bye-bye.